Hello, it's Katherine Norland. We have been talking about procrastination. If you are somebody who procrastinates, then you are in the right place at the right time. Let me grab the paper of what we've been talking about the last few weeks. Okay, so we've established so far there are many different reasons that we procrastinate. And what we've done so far is we've talked about procrastination when it comes to reasons we procrastinate and don't get done, the things that we say are important to us that we want to get done is number one, maybe we have fear. Maybe we have fear around not doing the thing. Okay. Number two is we have uncertainty. You can't move forward if you don't have clarity and you don't know what to do. So that could be another reason you're procrastinating. The third thing is maybe you procrastinate because you are feeling overwhelmed. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I hope you're going to get some great tips to be able to move forward with your goals and your dreams and your calling, because I'm going to bring you some solutions for common mistakes that we make when we are procrastinating. So, the fourth reason we talked about in one of the previous live streams was we procrastinate because something that we have to do is an unpleasant task. We don't really want to do it. And the fifth reason is discomfort. Like that thing that we know we need to do, it's not comfortable. It doesn't feel good. We're forcing ourselves, we're pressing ourselves to do it, and we don't really want to. And today we are going to be talking about procrastination. And one of the reasons we procrastinate is due to time constraints and timing. Like the timing isn't right. So, are you one of these people that doesn't have any time? Like you have all these big dreams and goals, and you feel like, I want to do all these things. I just don't have time to do it. So if that's you, you're in luck. We're going to be delving into how do you go ahead and move forward in your dreams and your calling if you don't have time to work on your dreams. Okay? So let's delve right in. I am looking at your comments on Facebook as well as YouTube, and I will be, if it's on topic, we'll see if we can answer some of them. So I'm going to delve right in. The sixth reason we procrastinate and don't get things done is because of time constraints and timing. Okay. So, two things that I have learned just from experience is that everything takes longer than you think it will. But the good news is it's easier than you think it will be. It always turns out that way. I have this big daunting task in front of me and I don't I go, oh, it's going to be so hard. I'm not going to get it. But once I delve into it and once I really start working it, it actually doesn't take as long as I think excuse me, it's not as hard as I think it will be, but it does take longer than I think it will. And I am famous for only scheduling like a short amount of time to get something done. So last night I scheduled an hour to just make a couple updates to my profile on womenspeakers.com, where I'm listed as a featured speaker. So I give myself an hour. You know, it ended up taking over 3 hours to do what I only scheduled an hour for. So that's just every time this happens, it just cements, this wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be once I got in and started doing it, but it took longer than I thought it will. So just keep that in mind. What this means for you is that you don't have to dread how hard it's going to be. If you just get started, a lot of the things that are murky and uncertain, they will start to become clear. However, you do need to allot more time to do the thing than you think that you will actually need. Angela, thank you so much for the super sticker. I so appreciate your generosity and always being willing to show the love with a little super sticker gift. It's appreciated, especially knowing the situation you're in right now and the sacrifice you're making. Okay, so One of my downfalls in my life is organization. I I I would like to say I'm an organized person, but then I would be lying. I've been striving to be an organized person, and I think some people's brains work better in this capacity than others. So I don't know where stuff is, and it wastes a lot of time. So yesterday, um, I said, "Oh, I'm going to submit myself on multiple websites as a speaker," and I gave myself 2 hours to do it. And well, it took me about an hour just to find the information that I got during one of my speakers classes to even find the websites. And when I finally saw my notes, I saw that I didn't actually write down the websites I was supposed to go to. So then I had to sift through all the training videos that I had on being a speaker to even find the section where they list the websites that you can submit yourself. So by the time the 2 hours were up, I had other stuff planned. I had to go do other things. So I had to quit and I couldn't continue. So that I see is one of the downfalls in my life of not having enough time is not being organized actually sucks time away from me. So I had to go do something else. I couldn't continue. Now the old me would be switching back and forth every time my calendar demanded because I make a calendar every day. I have a calendar of all the stuff I'm going to commit to do that day. And I try to do the most important things first, the needle movers. There's a book I'm working on right now called The 7 C's to Success. And it's 7 things you need to do each day to be successful. Thank you, everyone who's joining me now. I see you. So the 7 C's to success, like the first one each day is commune with God, have that relationship. And the next C is we create. We always create something towards what our goals are each day. So being an author, I have to create a piece of content. I have to write something each day. Um, Always create before you consume. Sometimes you guys go and you get on your phone or your computer right away in the morning. You're consuming other people's content before you've created any of your own. That's a no-no in my world when it comes to the 7 C's to success. But maybe I'll do a training on that later when I've got more of that book solidified. So I used to switch back and forth from task to task, arranging arranging my schedule by my to-do list. And then I would come up with these time constraints. So my first tip to getting more done and to stop procrastinating is number one, always schedule your needle movers first. That's why I say I always create something before I consume somebody else's content. If you have a to-do list and it's got a zillion things on it, number one is going to be your relationship with God. But for this particular thing, we're going to schedule our needle movers first. So if you've got 15 things to do today, in all reality, you probably will only get to 5 or 6 of them, unless they're tiny little things, unless they're really minuscule things. So for me, scheduling the needle mover first is what is that one super important phone call or email I have to send that like somebody's waiting on the other end that can give me a yes to have an article in their magazine or have a role in a film. What is that thing where I know I need to get back to someone? And a needle mover can also be creating content. If I want to continue to be an author, I have you guys sometimes every week you're asking me, when's your next book coming out? I put out a book last May and I haven't put out another one yet, and it's April. I've got lots of ideas for books, but if I don't schedule first that needle mover, that thing that's going to make the difference in my goal, what is it for you? What is your needle mover that's going to make the biggest difference for you and for your goals? And make your task list. Especially if you're restrained for time, and I know some of you have to get up early and go to work. When that's the case for me, if I have to go to work at 8, that means I have to leave my house by 7. That means instead of getting up at 6 to get ready, I'm going to get up at 5. So from 5 to 6, I can write for an hour. Then 6 to 7, I'm getting ready to go. So, what is it for you that you need to schedule first? If you anticipate um, things getting in the way and having to reschedule things, you want to be able to reschedule the things that are less important, that aren't going to move the needle for you in what your goals are. The second tip is to always give yourself more buffer time than you think you'll need, especially when doing things that have a learning curve. If the goals and the things in your life that you're working on are brand new, you haven't done them before, you haven't done certain aspects of them, it's brand new territory. Like when I finally got to go on those websites for submitting myself as a speaker, each website had a different protocol for submitting what they needed. And so I thought, oh, I'm just going to go on there and send them my speaker one sheet. Well, that's not how all the sites worked. And um, so I didn't factor in enough time to sift through each site and look for examples and look for examples of speakers who are already on their site. Which ones stand out to me? Which ones are ones I would want to hire? What are they doing different? It's not just as simple as like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to put my bio up. I want to look at other people's bios and see what sticks out to me when I'm looking at them. What would make me want to book them or hire them? So, and several of these speaker sites, I was on there for a long time just trying to find where I could submit as a speaker because it wasn't clear. So, um, I had spent 4 hours twice now, and the time I had allotted was like an eighth of that time or a fourth of that time. So half the sites to sign up for, I couldn't even figure out how to sign up for the sites. So I had to find contact info and email for these people and submit emails to them to find out like, how do I even sign up to be a speaker? So that's going to be on my schedule for next week to follow up with them because I never got a single email back from the people I emailed. So now, when you get proficient at doing something, when you've been doing something over and over and you know how to do it, you can do it quickly. So, when that's the case with a lot of things that you do, you often forget what it was like when you started out doing that thing, how complicated it seemed, or how many steps were involved. Brittany says, when doing laundry, it always takes longer than you think, like all day long. We should know that by now, right? But scheduling, what can you do while the laundry is being done? I guess you can fold while one is in, but how can you also be productive in between times? That's the key. When you have time constraints, and we'll get into this more, you have to find ways to do stuff while you're doing other stuff. Usually not the kind of things that take concentration, though. That's a different thing. So you forget how complicated and how many steps it's going to take when you haven't done something, especially when what you have been doing is easy. And the new thing, not that it's not hard, but it's hard in how you perceive it to be because it's new to you. And sometimes that's what stops us. Something being new, we can build it up in our minds to be such a big, overwhelming task. And we think, oh, this is going to take forever. And that's why we procrastinate. We procrastinate sometimes because we don't even know where to start. We think it's going to be so big and overwhelming. And like I said, on the other hand, when we've been doing tasks for a number of years, sometimes it's the opposite. We're like, oh, this is going to be a breeze. I'll get it done in 2 hours, not realizing it may take a couple of days or a couple of weeks working on the pieces. Maybe, especially if it's something new, you're having each new thing. It may be a list of simple things, but each one of them is going to require a learning curve because you haven't done them before. So I have to admit, I'm going to be the first to admit, I'm not on here teaching because I have it all together and I got this like time management, time constraint thing all figured out. Because there's things that have been on my to-do list for a very long time. And these are things that are priority. For instance, wanting to get the sales page done for my online course because Nobody can buy my life-changing course unless I have a place where you can go and click on it and put it in the shopping cart and buy it, right? So, and I believe in my course. I know it helps people shatter their unhealthy view of themselves. It's called You Are Worthy. And it helps people realize that they are just enough, just the way they are, to step into their purpose and live their calling with confidence. But if there's no way for them to go get it, if I don't have a sales page, um, I'm doing them a disservice. So that's been a goal, and I've been stopping myself. And yes, I have time constraints. That's what we're talking about, right? So sometimes I'm leaving my house at 11 a.m. and I'm not getting home till 6 or 7 p.m. Sometimes I'm leaving at 10. Today I have to leave at 9 to go to work. So you come back at the end of the day, you know the drill, especially if you're a mom or you're responsible for taking care of other people, maybe your siblings. You get home, you make dinner, and then maybe you're after that you're in the office and you're paying bills, and then you're like, oh, I didn't have time to do my quiet time with God in the morning because my call time was so early. So maybe you're trying to get in, prayer time, and by then it's like 8 or 9 at night, and then it's bath time for the kids, and you're reading them the Bible. It's easily 10:30 at night, and then I haven't had time to work on my sales pages because the first 3 hours of my day was homeschooling Elijah before I went to work. So these are just you also have to know, what is the difference between, am I making excuses, and is this like really a legitimate time constraint, right? Each week. And here I am talking to you guys each week. Sometimes, depending on the topic, I'm spending hours of preparation to provide you guys with answers and solutions for, what you need to help you get over the obstacles that are standing between you and your dreams. So that's just, where I'm at, and maybe some of you guys can relate. Okay. So I saw somebody asking, how come Katherine doesn't answer questions? Once a month, I do an actual ask me anything Q&A. We did that last week. And then when I'm doing certain topics, I will answer questions based on that particular topic. So today, few questions regarding time constraints or timing, or what's standing in the way procrastination wise when it comes to time. That's what we're talking about today. So you guys will have to tune in once a month to the Ask Me Anything if you have other questions that are off topic. Okay, the third solution is to ask yourself, what if it were easy? Just ask yourself, this task that I'm working on that I keep procrastinating, I don't have time, it's going to be such a big ordeal. Stop and ask yourself, what if it were easy? What if what I was attempting to do was super simple? You may want to check in with yourself internally and ask, am I trying to complicate things? Because a lot of times we are trying to complicate things. We're in our mind, we think it's more difficult than it is. Like, are you trying to compare yourself to others and how they get things done or what their things look like? Your thing doesn't have to look like others. It doesn't have to be as polished as others. A lot of times we're comparing our chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 22. So we think it has to be this big, complicated ordeal and take so much time to do, when sometimes we just need something simple. Like, I was looking at other people who have been selling their course for over a decade, and they have these perfect landing pages and sales pages, and they look polished. And I have to realize they've had more time to perfect it. They've also had the assistance and the resources. And, one thing you can do to find out if you're trying to complicate it and not make it easy is check in with other people who are in your industry, if you're or in the industry that you're wanting to step into, and say, like, what would you do? I'm amazed. I was talking to one of my coaching clients this week, and she was like all up in arms about, uh, ironically enough, her website. And so I'm giving her these tips and solutions, and she was just like, Wow, 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 you just make it seem so easy. I said, well, it can be with this particular thing she was doing. And I was giving her examples. I'm like, look, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. You can keep it simple. This is this. And sometimes we just can't see the forest through the trees. Like we're so stuck in our problem that we think it has to be this whole convoluted, complicated thing. And it doesn't. So going back to my problem with my landing pages, I was at this Christian business conference and somehow we got on the topic of courses and it came up that I was like, well, I don't have landing pages or sales pages and that's what's stopping me. And the woman talking to me said, well, why do you need that? And of course, after seeing the landing pages and sales pages for every course I've ever purchased, I just, assumed that I needed to have it because this is dozens and dozens of courses I've purchased. So I assumed that was a prerequisite until she said something to me like, she said, well, if someone wants to buy your course, why can't they just send you money via PayPal? And you just send them the link to the course. It was like, boing! She just made it super simple. Now, I know that's not the permanent end all fix, but it doesn't have to stop me right now. If someone wants to delve in to my You Are Worthy course content, I could just do that until I have a landing page. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You guys may find some way to make it easier for now. Um, and yes, one day these pages will be built. But for now, I could take the pressure off myself and just tell someone, hey, if you want to get my course, I can just send you the link to it. And here's where you pay, right? So, what in your life, I'm asking you now, what in your life, welcome. I've got some new people on Facebook and here uh, watching the stream today. What is it in your life that could be made easy that you're just trying to complicate? Do some research, watch some tutorials, go to masterminds with others in your industry or even those who are not in your industry because they may see from a different perspective that you can't see. You may be so close to the problem and you may be so emotionally attached to the problem that you can't see an easy way out. So, the first solution we're talking about with time constraints is to schedule the needle movers first, the important things first. That way, if you run out of time at the end of the day because things take longer than you think you will, you're not pushing off and rescheduling the things that are going to make the biggest difference. The second tip we've given you so far is to give yourself more time than you think you need. And the third solution is to ask yourself, what if it were easy? What would I do if this was just easy? How would I do things differently if this were easy? And we're about to get into the fourth solution. Okay. Solution 4. Find ways to use your downtime effectively. How many of you, when you're standing in line at the supermarket, get out your phone and start scrolling, looking at social media posts, answering emails, whatever? Instead of scrolling through social media or instead of sleeping in too long, taking forever to get out of bed, like you're just laying there for 20, 30, 40 minutes. How about you just get up and start your day instead of taking forever? How about, sometimes I've noticed I sometimes I can make supper last an hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 3 or 4 hours between prep work, cooking, cleaning up the kitchen, maybe I'm watching a movie while I eat. You could cut that time in half and you'd save an extra hour and a half to 2 hours a day if you're the kind of person that sometimes makes your dinner last 3 or 4 hours. I want you to That's, one thing I can work on, but I want you to start recognizing and identifying what areas in your life are you stretching out too long? When you go shopping for groceries, do you go down every single aisle because you have FOMO, fear of missing out, instead of only going to the aisles to get the things that are on your shopping list? This is something I do all the time. I'm identifying where I am taking up way too much time. Okay. So you got to figure out, where am I stretching out the time where I could make it more succinct? So like for the long dinners, maybe I could Monday through Friday have quicker dinners. Have Sunday maybe be a food prep day, cooking, freezing the food, making batches. That way I can just pull them out and warm them up and they're ready. So ask yourself, and you can put it in the chat. Put in the chat, where are you drawing things out, making them take longer than they actually need to? Are you running errands several different days of the week instead of just picking one day to go run the errands? Because once you're out and about and you just get it done, but if you're having to get yourself together to go do it multiple times a week, that's more time that you're putting towards that thing than you actually need to. So, oh, yes. So I talked about the 7 C's to success, one of the other books I'm working on. Create before you consume. Like the only, like, I'm not going to read someone else's book before I started working on mine. I talked about that, but unless it's the Bible, that 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 can be read before I work on my own stuff. But I'm not going to watch someone else's YouTube video before I create a piece of content. So when you start putting these rules into play, you will be amazed at how much time you get back. Because if you're spending your time consuming other people's stuff, you're making them rich and getting them seen instead of bringing in some revenue for yourself and getting yourself seen. So it doesn't have to be massive blocks of time, like an hour or 2 hours a day. If you're a songwriter, you could just work on one couplet, just like 2 lines before you start your day. Or you could do 2 lines on your lunch break instead of grabbing your coworkers. I'm sorry, instead of gabbing with your coworkers or scrolling on your phone. So I'm on set yesterday, and I always have like a poem with me. Um, I have a whole slot here of different poems I've been working on that are going to end up going in various books. I always bring like 1 or 2 pieces with me, and I just fold it up and put it in my purse. Yesterday I was on set and I was working on it when it wasn't my scene. I was working on a poem, and then I brought the poem to set because I didn't have to. My part came in at the very end of the scene, so I was able to like work on a line or two until it was my turn to each time to go in. So that's like grabbing space where normally people would just sit there, or they'd be whispering to their coworkers, or they would be, you know, scrolling through social media in between. When you have just 5 or 10 minutes here and there, I'm doing my best to work in little bits of productivity. What is it for you? Maybe you're not working on writing something, but maybe you need to do research on something. Can you research certain models of what you're looking to do, certain websites, certain ways to do things? Can you be looking up Google articles and like making notes while you're doing it? What is it? Write in the chat what you could be doing each day when you have bits of downtime that right now are just being wasted just because it's only 10 or 15 minutes here and there. What are some things that you are starting to feel convicted of right now? Right? What are you being convicted of? As I speak to you, where could you shave off some time in your schedule and fit in some of the things you've been procrastinating on? Even if it's just the research part, even if it's not conducive for you to actually do the thing, maybe it's in the garage and your hands are going to get greasy in a motor part, whatever it is. But can you be looking up? Can you be doing research? Like, what's the best part? What's the best oil? Look at, what I see. I know nothing about automotive stuff. What's the best oil? But you know what your thing is, and you know how you could be sharpening your skills in your downtime. So wherever you go, in order to use your time effectively, bring some things that need to get done with you. Many people bring books to read, or they bring their homework. As I mentioned, I bring poetry to work on. I've even found myself standing in line, a long line at a grocery store, working on a couple of lines of poetry until it's my turn. Now, if you've got business emails, that's something else. You could answer business emails and check messages while you wait. So, what could you do? Are you Are you remodeling your house and you're stuck like, oh, I don't know what colors I want to use? Could you be looking at Pinterest boards online and save them, save the color swatches, or order a piece of fabric online while you're waiting? Can you, like, one thing I do sometimes is when I'm just chatting with friends, can you fold laundry while you're on the phone with a friend? Put in the chat, what are some of the things you could do while you're doing other things to use your time effectively? All right. Solution number 5 to help you make more time is trade time with a friend. Trade time with a friend. Okay. This is really important when it comes to those tasks that you really can't be interrupted for. Now, there's certain things we can do when we have little bits of downtime, but if it's stuff that you can't be interrupted for, where you can't take it to work with you because it requires too much concentration, like for me, when I finally start to pick up working on my son's memoir again, the memoir about the time we had in the NICU, that's something that I can't really be interrupted for because it takes too much concentration. So when I'm writing about my son's premature birth and the faith that it took to get through that, it's too many moving parts and pieces. Like, I have over 200 pages of notes I've already written down and multiple journals to go through, hundreds of pages of medical reports to sort through. Like, I can't take that to work and do it on lunch break. So you have to be wise. So like a few weeks ago, I took my taxes to work with me to try to work on a between scenes. I had like 6 bags with me, and then I had like 10 envelopes spread out all over the place, multiple piles of receipts covering the whole couch and coffee table. And then my boss walks in. I almost never see him. And he walks into the room with his cameraman. And I was like, oh, shoot. Were you going to film in here? My stuff is everywhere. I was like embarrassed. My stuff was everywhere. I had my shoes kicked off. I was just like taking up every like piece of surface. And I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just like treating this place like my own house. Well, he didn't seem to be bothered. He was just kind of like, wow, you're doing your own taxes? You really do it all. So bringing certain things to work with you is not always conducive. So I'm never going to bring like 6 big boxes of receipts with me to work again. So when I say trade with a friend, what do I mean by that? So if you're a parent, do you find like another parent that you're friends with, or maybe your kids go to the same school, or somebody at Sunday school, and maybe um, someone your kid is friends with, I don't know. And you say, I'll watch your kids this Saturday so you can do what you need to do. If you can watch mine the following Saturday, so I can do what I need to do. Now, even though in theory, this looks like you're not saving any time because you're giving them 8 hours one Saturday and they're giving you 8 hours the next Saturday, it actually is time saving because it can end up being very effective. When you are deep into working on something, um, getting interrupted it's very hard to get your concentration back. So some studies have shown that if you're interrupted, it takes 20 minutes to adjust to get back into that task. And other studies have shown that to get really deep back into that flow state where things are just flowing and they're just like the book is writing itself, that can take up to 2 hours to get back into that deep flow state. So when I 2 kids, mommy, I need this, help me get my Legos down, make me some food, where's the Play-Doh, I can't find my dinosaur, the internet's not working, whatever it is, the constant interruption makes it really extremely difficult to do things that require a lot of deep concentration. So trading time with a friend where you put the kids with your friend for whatever amount of time and then the next week you watch them, you will get so much more done when you don't have those interruptions. So try that. Solution 5. Now, solution 6, this kind of pigtails into this because this is Solution 6 is removing distractions. We live in a completely distracted world, right? We're in a completely distracted world. We're constantly getting our attention drawn to different things. And so you have to know what your distractions are so you can know how to get rid of them. All right. So, what are your distractions? When you get up to go, like, I'm working on something at my desk, but then, like, if I get up to go to the bathroom, I see other tasks that I should be doing. Like, oh, I got to put this away. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I see I haven't made water yet. We distill water. So, oh, I got to do, you start to find all these things that distract you. Like, oh, this is a mess. And then you're cleaning up these other messes. It's easy to get distracted by all these other things. Maybe you have your email notifications on your computer, and then that's stopping you and pulling you away from the things that you need to do. It's causing you to procrastinate on the other things because you're constantly being interrupted. Do you have your phone? Do you have notifications turned on your phone? And then every time your phone dings or makes a noise because somebody left you a message on social media, you go like, oh, it's almost like a dog that's been trained when they hear a bell ring, right? Was that Pavlov's dog? Whenever the bell rang, the dog would start salivating because they knew food was coming. And that's how we just want these dopamine hits. So we have our notifications on and we're working on something that may be important, but then we hear a ding and this notification goes off on our phone. And suddenly we're like that squirrel or we're like that dog that hears the bell ring. And we're like, oh, I'm going to eat. What did somebody say? Did they like my post? What was it? And we keep getting pulled away from this. Now, I had no notifications on my phone, and 99% of the time I do not even keep the ringer on my phone. Unless I know somebody said they're going to call me at a specific time, I will turn my ringer on. But 99% of the time I do not have my ringer on. I do not answer a text the second it comes unless like I'm already on my phone and I see it come in. So don't feel like just because you have a phone and we're in this modern age that you have to answer the messages exactly right when you get it, right? So, oh, thank you, Nana. Katherine gives so many creative solutions for such a common problem. So get those notifications off your phone. If you don't feel like you can do it all the time like I do it at least when you're working on that thing that needs concentration. You should not be interrupted by notifications when you're studying, when you're trying to write, when you're having your quiet time with God, your prayer time. You don't need people interrupting you during that time, okay? Now, if you're an on-call surgeon, of course, there's going to be exceptions to the rule. If you are a labor and delivery doctor, there's going to be exceptions to the rule. For instance, when I went into labor with Timothy, the doctor was not there. He did not even make it to my birth. So we had to do it without him. He probably needed his notifications on. Of course, it was the middle of the night. He's probably sleeping. That's a whole nother story. But if you don't have that kind of a job where you absolutely have to be notified, I know I have lost an acting job once because I didn't get back to the casting person in time. But that was, that doesn't happen all that often. So you're always being interrupted by your phone if you've got these notifications on for every platform. Maybe the only thing you should have your notifications on for are texts, and then just silence the text when you're doing your deep concentrated work. Okay? And when you're like when I used to go away to write somewhere, tell your family between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. I'm not available to chat. Take it up with your dad if I'm not there. And then, at 5 or when you're done writing, go ahead and send whoever a text and say, okay, if you need to chat, I'm available now. Don't let anyone just come and interrupt your day and what you have going on. This dream that God put in your heart that he told you to do, you can't just be interrupted anytime someone feels like sending you something or calling you, right? And most things are not true emergencies. Now, you've probably heard of several productive people. If you've ever done any reading on productivity, a lot of them say, do not even have your phone in the same room with you. Many prolific writers, they don't have internet on their computer. They will make notes as they're writing to go like research this, look this thing up later, and they'll put that in the notes as they're writing. Because how many of you have ever just, I'm just going to hop on the internet to go look something up, and then the next thing you get sucked into this black hole of the internet, and the next thing you know, an hour has passed by and you're watching cat videos or pimple popping videos, and you forgot what you were even on the internet for. Am I the only guilty one? I don't watch pimple popping videos, but my mom does. So gross. So gross. There was a TV show called The Pimple Popper. I was like, why are you watching this? But you never know where someone gets their fulfillment from. What can I say? All right. When it comes to not having enough time, there's also something I learned from a teacher in a 6-week course I took. So I took this 6-week course from a woman named Sean. I forget what the name of her course was. And she talked about 3 different types of times that you should schedule for yourself. And the 3 different types of times you should schedule for yourself to be more productive is free time, flex time, and focus time. And you do your very best not to intermingle those or get those 3 times mixed up, which is what we tend to do, right? So, free time is your downtime. This should be the days when you do whatever you want, whatever's like relaxing. It's not work related. It doesn't have anything to do with work. These are usually like our Sabbath Sundays, but sometimes you have an hour or two at night that might be free time as well. So you watch movies, you go for walks, you spend time with family, you play board games, maybe you go to a party, you go roller skating. Free time is your time to rejuvenate yourself. Like you can turn off your brain. Like I don't have to think. I could just sit here and watch a comedy. Maybe you go to church, you go to a play, maybe you read books you enjoy. This is your free time. Do not let any work bleed into this time. Don't let any work activities try to interrupt your free time. I know as a recovering workaholic, it's easy for me to try to sneak in some work related stuff during my free time. And Rob knows I always have like ulterior motives. So I used to be part of this website where they would do contests I don't know. And one time it was like, build, take a picture of you building a sandcastle. And so Rob's like, is this? I said, I know. After church today, let's go out to the beach and let's build a sandcastle with Timothy. And he knows I don't even like go outside. Rarely. He's like, is this some kind of, are you trying to do this for someone? No, let's just go build a sandcastle. And then can you take lots of pictures of it? And really, I was wanting to submit to this contest. Okay. But it was free time, even though I had an ulterior motive. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. I was like, Rob, there was another contest. I was like, let's make a homemade pizza and let's record it as like a time capture video where you just get it like where it zooms up. I forget what that's called. Time lapse video. And then afterwards I wrote a poem about building your own pizza. And this was a challenge for Pieology. And I turned in this video of me like making my own pizza. And I turned in like a poem that went with it. Whatever. I always had these ulterior motives because I like feel lazy having free time. So this is a big one for me. I'm always trying to work during my free time. So I'm saying this to you guys so you can call me out on it or saying, aren't you supposed to be doing? Yes. Okay. All right. So we got the free time. Then there's flex time. What is flex time? This most of the time when you're a working mom or you've got all different kinds of people you're responsible to, Maybe you're a supervisor, maybe you have employees under you. Maybe you're in a classroom and other students are interrupting you. But flex time is this is the time you want to use to get things done, but it's not stuff that needs deep concentration. Flex time, you're flexible. Like this may be a time where you're making phone calls, or you're checking emails, or you're doing the dishes, you're doing housework, you're doing things that you can be interrupted by the phone or by text. Like you can have your ringer on. You're flexible. You can be interrupted in the stuff you're doing. You can be interrupted by family and friends. The third category, and this is the one we spend the least amount of time in, but it's actually the most important. I think the most important as far as it comes to productivity and getting things done and no longer procrastinating. And that is focus time. What do we do during focus time? No interruptions. These are days like when I need to focus, like when I was working on writing my online course, I had to go put Elijah in daycare and put my phone on silent, no notifications, even better, putting my phone in another room. Because sometimes, even if my notifications are off, when I'm like concentrating and writing, when I hit like a roadblock and I don't know what to do, it's so easy to be like, well, I'm kind of stuck right now. Maybe I'll just pick up my phone and see who's trying to get a hold of me. That's a bad habit to create. You want to, instead of like creating the habit that whenever you get stuck, you switch to go look at something, is creating the habit where you do something to get unlocked from that place. So sometimes when I would go away writing, I would do the like pray and pace. So when I would get stuck writing, I would just walk back and forth and pray in my hotel room, just walk back and forth and pray. And I would do that until I got the answer. Or I would go outside and just go walk around and pray until the answer came. Because going to the phone or checking something is not going to bring the answers. That's avoidance behavior. And that's something we want to not do when we're trying to get, not procrastinate anymore. Because avoidance behavior obviously is another form of procrastinating. So you don't even want your phone there to reach for to see who put a comment on your post while you're supposed to be focusing. So write in the chat, what are your distractions and what could you do to make sure you don't fall for those distractions when you've set aside some time to focus? Maybe from 3 to 5, you're alone each day before people come home and start interrupting you. What can you do to make that 3 to 5 each day a time of deep focus? With the small amount of time you have, besides getting rid of distractions, can you think of anything else you could do to schedule your time more effectively? Write that in the solution. Write that in the chat. Write that solution in the chat. Okay, somebody said other people's opinions. Yeah. So if that's pulling you away from focusing, how many of you need to focus on something, but then you went and looked up something and somebody had a mean comment or some opinion of you, and you could no longer focus on what you're trying to do because you're now trying to figure out, well, why did they say that? Why do they think that? How come they're saying that about me? Don't they know? And then you're trying to come up with solutions for somebody else's problem. They have a problem with you. Guess what? This may be news to you, but someone else's problem with you isn't necessarily your problem. Like if someone has a problem with you, you don't necessarily have to bring them a solution because they may not want a solution. They may want to not like you. And even if you bring them the solution, like you're trying to show them that's not who I am, that's not me, that whatever. Why are you trying to prove yourself to someone who clearly is not interested in you, is not interested in seeing you in the proper light anyway? Right? Now, like I know there can be misunderstandings. And there's sometimes it's people you should explain to, but not everybody deserves an explanation or requires one. So Nicola, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate you. Moving on to solution number 7, pair your tasks. We talked about this a little bit when I said sometimes when I talk with my friend, I fold laundry. So, how can you pair your tasks? Solution 7. What are tasks you can combine with other tasks to save time? So, sometimes I'm on the phone call. I will put it on speaker, and if I'm just talking to my mom, like some of my family, we have like long calls, and sometimes they're telling me stuff they've already told me several times, or people who are just sometimes they just want you there. They're just venting or whatever. I'll take my phone and I'll tuck it like in the strap of my shirt, and I'll just be like putting my clothes away while I'm listening. It's not distracting for me. I can still hear what my mom is saying and respond and all that. But that way I'm getting something done, because sometimes an hour and a half can go by if somebody really needs to talk to you. Or sometimes, like last night, my friend called me. She was upset about something. I was already like bouncing on my trampoline a little, and she called, and I was like, well, I'm just going to keep bouncing. I don't have to like do crazy loud bounces. And I'm like listening to her and I'm bouncing. I don't want to like forego my exercise for the day because a friend is in need, right? So sometimes I just go for walks when I'm talking to a friend or something, getting my steps in because the call is so long. When I'm homeschooling Eli, sometimes we will eat our breakfast or lunch while we're doing homeschool, while we're watching the homeschooling videos, because they don't all require like writing or to be doing something. So it's not a separate, okay, we're going to separately have breakfast for 30 minutes. Then we're going to do, sometimes we combine stuff like that. So what can you do? Where can you multiply your efforts? Sitting down to read can sometimes be challenging. Like 80% of the time these days, I'm listening to audiobooks while I drive rather than reading a physical book. But I still read physical books pretty much every day. But it's just not as long as I used to be able to read. Like when you're driving, why are you listening to music? Why are you listening to songs you've already heard 50 times rather than growing your mind? As people say, there's a saying that says, the more you learn, the more you earn. So I want you to start brainstorming things that you can combine that will save you time and help you fit more in. Like, I always watch educational videos or modules of different online courses I've purchased while I eat my lunch. A few years ago, I went to a conference and I shared a hotel room and with a friend. And she thought it was really funny that I would do squats while I brush my teeth. And sometimes it's the only time I feel like I can get like a little bit of a workout in, right? Other times when my kids want me to watch a movie with them, like I said, I'll get out my little mini trampoline and we take times jumping while we watch the kids' movies. Like, who made up the rule that you just have to sit on the couch or sit in the lazy boy while you watch a movie? So lastly, in this category of time, having time constraints, and using time effectively, this last solution I'm going to bring you, to be honest with you, is not really a total solution to procrastination, because when you don't have enough time, you don't have enough time that's going to free you up. Maybe you've gone through the 7 solutions and you're like, I've tried this, I'm trying to do this, I'm doing the best I can with this, but sometimes the timing isn't right. So solution 8 really is to give yourself a timeout. This is not the solution necessarily that is going to get the things done, but maybe it is. Give yourself a time out when the timing isn't right because of the season you're in or all that you have on your plate. It's okay to give yourself a time out, to give yourself grace and realize that even if you've been trying to implement something with the more than 20 solutions I've given you to procrastination in these last 5 live streams, maybe it's not that you're not using your time effectively. Maybe you are using your time effectively, but the timing just isn't right. That's right, Brittany. Brittany says, so you also say to do things that make you happy, and sometimes jamming out to music does that for me. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. So just so you guys know, not every solution is meant for you. I'm going to have different strokes for different folks, right? Different solutions that if there's a solution I'm bringing, it doesn't resonate with you, get rid of it, right? These solutions, just think of them kind of like a buffet. You take the parts that you think are going to be good, the parts that are going to work for you, and the parts that don't, just pass them by. Maybe you'll try them later, maybe you won't, but take the things that work for you and don't take the things that don't, right? If you know you don't like Brussels sprouts, get the broccoli instead, as long as you're getting your veggies in, right? Okay, so it may not be the time for you to push ahead and move in this particular thing, no matter how badly you want to. I've had so many things on my to-do list that I really wanted to do, like writing the memoir is one. It's just the timing hasn't been there. And when you're in certain stages of your life, it may not be the right time to press forward. And it may have nothing to do with you procrastinating. Like when you're the mom of young babies or toddlers and just keeping up the house, or if you're working outside the home and then you're home with the little ones, you're homeschooling in between meals and there's never ending laundry, there just may be a season where it's not conducive to take on a big time consuming project that has all different kinds of working parts. So, solution 8, giving yourself a timeout. I want to just let you guys know. So even when I try to bring projects to work on to set, and there's not really much downtime on set. Like when I go to shoot, I know there's the downtime is basically the time you have to change your clothes for the next scene. Studio runs a very tight ship and it's wonderful. They're wonderful at scheduling and they know how long each scene should take, which actors are needed. Most days, maybe we'll get like 35-minute total of breaks. That could be 5 minutes here and then a 30-minute lunch break. Different, um, sometimes you're doing sometimes you're doing scenes that you're not in. Then you may have 20 minutes or something, but it's not always conducive, right? So like I said, I can work on poetry or whatever, but a lot of times there's interruptions, right? There's people coming in and out, wanting to talk to you, wanting to have conversations. Where I work, it's not like a big Hollywood movie studio where like the stars get their own trailers, right? I mean, I would be way more productive if I did that, but it's just not always possible. So you have to realize when it comes to timing and not being able to be productive at everything, um, there's times and timing in our life where it just doesn't work. So when Timothy was a baby and he was finally out of the neonatal intensive care unit, we had 10 doctor's appointments a week between doctors, nurses, therapists, checkups, infant specialists, PT twice a week, OT twice a week, getting different diagnoses of the special needs. It was exhausting mentally, physically, emotionally. I was spent. We were drowning in debt. We just got a $1.5 million medical bill from his birth. And we were breaking up with our production company. Our house was going into foreclosure due to the 2008 crash. My job had just lowered my pay several dollars an hour due to the crash. And I was dealing with a little bit of depression with my son's new special needs diagnosis. We had no family help in LA. Our family's in Minnesota. So during that time, it wasn't that I didn't have the drive or the passion to do more or fulfill my dreams or write more books. And it wasn't that I was procrastinating on anything. I just had nothing left to give. I had no capacity for any more. And even if I pushed myself to work on my book project in the wee hours of the night when I should have been sleeping, I wouldn't have produced great work. It wasn't in me. It's like a refrigerator magnet I once read said, if the kids are alive at the end of the day, I've done my job. So sometimes there are seasons you're in where you feel like, man, if I just make it through the day and get my bills paid and my responsibilities done, that's all I've got, right? Some of you know, some of you are at that place right now. And I want to tell you, if that's the phase you're in, there is no condemnation. And I want to give you some hope. The hope is this is not how it will always be. This too shall pass. Give yourself some love, give yourself some grace, and realize if you could do better, you would do better. Some of you are in excruciating pain right now, and that's stopping you from moving forward and doing more things than you want to. Doing more things than you can, even though you want to. So I know you're the type of people that want to improve yourself. You wouldn't be here watching a life coach talk for an hour about procrastination if you didn't want to do better. So please, please cut yourself some slack. If the timing isn't right for you, you'll know it. You'll be pushing yourself and getting less sleep than you need, not having time for your exercise, not having time for your self-care. It's this weird phenomenon that seems to be predominant in women, which is to beat yourself up and then feel guilty when you desperately need a nap, but you keep pushing yourself with another cup of caffeine when the truth is the timing just isn't right. So if there's a season you're in and the time isn't right, forgive yourself. Do the best you can. Fit in the things you know you need to do to be healthy and thriving, even if it means your goals are just temporarily taking a back seat. There may be things you can work on your days off. If you just need that time to refuel and re-energize yourself, instead cut yourself some slack, okay? Because you know how days off can turn into, well, now I got to do the mail, and now I got to pay the bills, and now I got to get back to the clinic that needs information on my child, and now I got to work on my taxes, and stuff fills up those slots. Some projects just cannot be done in a fragmented way, right? They need the focus time. So what does this mean for you? There was a time when my mom used to come out and watch Eli so I could have some focus time. But with my dad's health kind of declining, she can't leave him alone. And when I used to send Timothy to public school, I used to have 4 to 5 hours a day where he was gone, where I could write. But now that I'm homeschooling and both boys are home, it's a much different scenario. So please just realize, like I did, this is just a phase in your life right now. It won't always be like this. Have hope. Continue to dream. Take notes when the ideas come. Write those ideas down. When ideas pop up about your dreams, take time to journal about them. Write notes in a special place so that when the timing clears up, when your schedule clears and the timing is right, you will have those ideas. Don't be hard on yourself if you're in this place. It won't always be this hectic. Be grateful. Be grateful for where you're at right now, for the people that don't see the people as interruptions. Spend that time and care with those people. Maybe you're caregiving for a sick relative right now. Maybe you're raising kids. Maybe you're taking care of your parents. That time with them isn't replaceable. You can always work on your goals in a different season. This time will pass. Right now, although like I've already got the rough draft to the follow-up book, so I'm worthy. Now what? I just don't have the blocks of time that I had before I started homeschooling. But guess what? It's a blessing for me to be homeschooling. That is also a project that is near and dear to me. So just realize you can't do everything at once. There's seasons, and don't be upset with yourself or beat yourself up if the timing is just not what you want it to be. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I finally had a day where I could work on some of my stuff, but I had this intense burden to pray, and I couldn't just sit and work on my stuff because I had this, the Holy Spirit was really saying, you got to pray right now. So fasting and praying, we got to realize God's timing. We may try to shove things into place when it's just not his timing. And this could look so many different ways, where maybe you're constantly trying to do something, but you're being blocked. Nothing is going right. You keep hitting walls. The doors are slamming closed in your face. So those are times where you need to pray and get with God and find out, is this just not your timing for me to do this? Should this be a season where I'm focused on our relationship, on my family, on my spiritual growth, on something else? Or is this a time where I just need to rest? Or is this the devil trying to thwart me and try to block me and stop me? Because if that's the case, that may be a time you press through. God will answer you. He will speak to you. Just like if you guys need some more clues on how to hear from God, I did a live stream a few weeks ago called How You Can Hear from God Personally. I would suggest you go check that out. But just know, if it's not God's timing, you can't push it. You can't force it to make it happen. Be content where you are. Press in. Find out what God wants you to do in this waiting time. Serve God. Serve those around you that He's called you to serve during this time. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's your job, and keep believing that God will open up the doors when the timing is right. He will open up a season for you to fulfill your dreams. Sometimes God is using this downtime to develop your character, because only your character can keep you where your gifts, your talents, and your anointing takes you. And sometimes this timing of not seeing your dreams come to pass is when God is pruning you, like a tree that gets pruned to cut off the dead branches, the branches that are just sucking all the nutrition out. God cuts off the branches of a tree. You are the tree. That way, in the next season, that tree can bear more fruit and sweeter fruit in the right season. So do not be discouraged. As you press into God during this time, God will use this downtime to get you ready for what He already has ready for you. And I want to end this live stream with a poem by Nana, your loving moderator, one of your fantastic moderators. She's got a book out called Poems of Peace. I would encourage you to pick up on Amazon. And this is called Just Around the Corner. If you're in this down season, you're waiting for your dream, you're waiting for your goals, you're waiting for your miracles. Listen to this. Just around the corner, your miracle awaits. God may not move on your time, but He is never late. Keep on standing. Don't give up. Trust God in all you do. It won't be long before you see your miracle come through. Faithful is He who calls you. He will also bring it to pass. Just around the corner is your miracle at last. Thank you guys for being here. Bless you. I hope this filled you up, gave you some great ideas. Be here next week, same time. I have a special guest that is going to help you if you've had loss in your life. She's going to help you teach you how to find hope when you've been through excruciating losses. Love you guys. See you next week. Blessings.